Robin. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. At least I think I am. After the discussion today, we'll see. How are you doing?
I am doing great.
Good. I'm really glad to hear that. I really am. Because today we have some interesting things to talk about to follow up from our Real Talk last month with Dr. Clyde Yancy.
We can do real talk. Yay! Real talk, real talk.
That's
y'all.
That is right, a real talk, because so many of our viewers listeners were interested in hearing more about what Dr. Yancy said. And there was a whole other, section that is so important that I think it's important to follow up today.
Yeah, Dr. Yancy was so clear and so concise. I mean, this is really easy to follow and some real good information that we just want to go over and talk about a little.
Actually, yes, and life-saving information, I would say, too.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we begin, this week, this month, I'd like to kind of do a very quick review of what he said last month, because there were just so many important things he said. We're not going to go through all of it, but let's just mention, first of all, the risk factors. Remember the risk factors he talked about last time?
I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And anyway, so there were 3, and they're really important because they really make a difference in your longevity and how you approach doctors and approach your health. So number 1, hypertension. Number 2, obesity. And number 3, diabetes. So hypertension, obesity, diabetes, and unfortunately, those are 3 things that are very common in the Black community.
I think that's true, and I know so many people who have that and who struggle with that just daily. So those are risk factors, but that's not the end of the story.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And let's see, we discussed that last month, and let's move on to the symptoms. He said that people should never, ever, ever ignore, and they should never let their doctor diminish it or ignore it. So there were 4 of those. Number 1, the sudden onset of fatigue. Yeah, I mean, everybody's tired. That's true. But you know when you're especially tired and when it's dragging on. Number 2, shortness of breath. You had something really interesting on that.
I did. Shortness of breath in any situation is a risk factor and very, very important thing to follow up on. Some people say, well, I sleep better when I sit up by my window. Well, are you having shortness of breath? Some people say I sleep better, when I'm in a certain position. Well, are you having shortness of breath? So I think shortness of breath is something to follow up on, and don't think it's just your sleeping position. Why are you sleeping in a certain unusual position?
Wow, because it's so easy to say, well, I just feel better when I'm sleeping sitting up. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not something to ignore, or to let your doctor ignore either. Number 3, swollen ankles. Wow. That's something that we just have to make sure that we check, because often people aren't looking at their feet or at their ankles or their extremities, and really to take a look and every day and see, well, are my ankles larger than normal? And then maybe you don't run to the doctor immediately, but you think if there's something, maybe you're having too much salt, maybe you just got off a plane, but not to ignore that at all.
Absolutely, and not to explain it away. My socks are too tight. Obviously, that's why I have swollen ankles. Don't explain it away. Keep watch, and you may need to check with your doctor on that.
Absolutely, and don't let the doctor explain it away either. Just ignore it. Let the doctor ignore it. Number 4, persistent cough. Yeah, if you have a cold, of course you're going to have a cough, and sometimes the cough lasts longer than when you have the cold. But if it continues on, see your doctor.
That's true. And if you have persistent cough every morning or at some particular time of the day, all of a sudden you just start coughing and there's no explanation for it. You're not in some kind of environment where, smoke or something like that. And it's every day or it's every other day or it's on a routine basis. Have that checked out. That's very, very important.
Dr. Yancy was very, very clear on that these are flashing yellow lights, and if you get on them quickly, maybe, you can you can find out quickly what's going on, and perhaps it can be taken care of. Most likely it can. But please, please, we should not ignore these things. And I know that I'm very prone to ignore some of these things myself. So.
Well, I like your graphic of a flashing yellow light, because what do we do when there's a flashing yellow light? We slow down and then we stop. So stop and go see the doctor, get an explanation, find out what's going on with you, and don't just ignore something that really needs a little explanation.
And one other thing Dr. Yancy brought up, and I think I brought up in the last show too, was that, you're checking yourself out for these things, but you're also around your family, you're around your friends. Check out with them too. Hey, you've had that cough for a while, haven't you? Or you've seemed particularly tired for a long time. What's going on? Let's look out for ourselves and for each other.
That's true. I know that's really hard to do because,
Yes.
If you bring something up, particularly if it's been a chronic problem with somebody, they'll say, look, mind your own business. That is your business. As a family member or a friend, your business is to watch over the other family members or friends and help them see that this is something that should be checked out.
And to be receptive if they bring that up to you as well. Because we're looking out for ourselves and looking out for each other, and they're looking out for us too. So let's be open to other people.
Well, that's true, but that's much more difficult.
So anyway, so as for this month, Dr. Yancy brought up what he called the essential 8. And we brought this up at the end of the last show, and we wanted to spend a little bit more time on it this time, because he says that, of course, cardiovascular illness and disease is the leading cause of death and disability in Western society and industrial societies, and certainly in the Black community. But he said 80% of it can be prevented. And there are 8 steps, 8 things we need to be aware of. And he calls these the essential 8. I'm just going to run through them real quickly, and then, Mel, why don't you and I talk about them?
That sounds good.
Okay, let's see. Number 1, don't smoke. Stop smoking. Number 2, be active. Number 3, maintain a good weight. Number 4, eat a heart-healthy diet. Number 5, maintain a good blood pressure. Number 6, maintain a good cholesterol level. Number 7, watch your blood sugar levels. Number 8, have good sleep habits. Following those things, the more of those 8 things you can do, the more you will avoid cardiovascular illness, like heart attacks, heart disease, stroke. So anyway, let's get started with these. Mel, why don't you start with?
Well, number 1, you mentioned don't smoke. I think that one thing we can say is there is a lot of information about the dangers and the hazards of smoking. So a lot of people have stopped smoking, but there's still some of us who are still smoking. So think about whether or not this is really hindering your health, and go through there's so many different ways now that you can stop smoking. There are different therapists you can use, or programs, and that type of thing. So think about this. Stop smoking. Don't smoke is one of the real 8 essentials that Dr. Yancy has identified as causing possible cardiovascular disease, heart disease, hypertension, all these issues.
Absolutely, and he's really someone to listen to. I mean, I really listened to him. He was former president of the American Heart Association, and I mean, he has a lot of experience in this field. He's not joking when he says don't smoke or quit smoking. Okay, and he knows it's not easy, but it's important to do. Number 2, be active. He said simple walking is really good. Just do whatever you do it consistently, do it regularly. And it doesn't have to be where you're, falling down on the floor exhausted, but taking a walk every day makes a difference.
I think that's very, very important. And when he says walking, he doesn't mean just walking around the block. Get a good stride. and have a destination. Say, okay, I'm going to walk to the grocery store today instead of taking a taxi or driving or some other area. I'm going to walk to the park today. I'm going to walk in the park today or do the circle, whatever. But get a good stride, and there are so many different types of instruments you can use to let you know how much you're walking, how many steps you're taking, and how far you've walked, and that type of thing. And the interesting thing about it that I found is once you start walking, you want to keep walking. It energizes you. So. Yeah. Be active. Walking is a real good way. There are other ways to be active, but as a basic level, walking is very, very important, essential, and easy to do. You don't need to buy anything or anything. Just put your shoes on, get going.
Yeah, go with a friend too. Mm-hmm. I mean, that could be a really good way instead of meeting for coffee or meeting for drinks. Go out for a walk. Mm-hmm. That'd be great. Mm-hmm. Number 3, maintain a good weight. Now, that's not an easy thing to do for many people. For some it is, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But, he says, obesity, we know, is a risk factor, but trying to keep your weight within that healthy range for, your body build and for your height, very, very important. Okay, number 4, this is tied to number 3, closely tied, I think, eating a heart-healthy diet. Remember what he said about that?
Yeah, it's really, really important to eat a heart-healthy diet. And you can find out so easily what that is now. We have the internet, and we can just go in there and ask that question. But I think we all know what a heart-healthy diet is. Eating the vegetables, limiting the amount of sugar and salt in our diet in particular, and things like that. So eating a heart-healthy diet, I think, is very, very important. And I think the thing to do, at least what I've done, is I've researched what that is so that I know what I'm eating and whether or not it's good for my heart or not so good for my heart.
Yes, and mindful eating. What feels good when you eat it and how you feel after. Mm-hmm. Think about that too. So number 5. I'm sorry. Maintaining a healthy blood pressure. Now we know hypertension, high blood pressure is rampant in the Black community. It's rampant in Western society, and that it's a risk factor. So maintaining a good blood pressure is very, very important. You can check that at home every day or every week. Make sure that you do that.
Right. You may want to invest in a blood pressure machine. So that you can check your blood pressure on a regular basis and have some schedule, like every Sunday or 3 times a week or every Saturday, to check your blood pressure, so you know what it is. And if you can see that it's higher than it should be, then think about, are you doing the other things? Are you have you stopped smoking? Are you active? Are you having a good diet? All these kinds of things that can contribute to high blood pressure. So hypertension is really a key thing you need to watch over.
Absolutely. And maintaining a good level of cholesterol. That's a little bit harder to test at home, although there are now some home tests you can find. You're going to have to prick your finger, to test your cholesterol. But it's good to have a check with your doctor once a year. And more often if your cholesterol is not in the range it should be. And of course there's the HDL, that's the good cholesterol, that's cleaning out your arteries. But the LDL, that sticky one, that's the one that we really don't want to build up in the arteries.
Right.
But yeah, check that at least once a year.
Yeah, at least once a year. Go to your doctor, get a blood test. You'll get all these different parts of your blood tested. But take a quick look at that one, a very important look at that one, and see whether or not it's out of range. If it is, then come up with a plan to get it back in range.
Absolutely. And okay, number 7, maintaining a good blood sugar level. Well, once again, diabetes is a risk factor, and that is very common in the Black community. It's very common in Western society. So that's like cholesterol. Get that checked regularly with your doctor or at home, if you need to.
That's right. And in the blood test that you take for your cholesterol, you will get the A1C, the blood sugar levels, and you'll know exactly where you stand in that. So take that a number very, very seriously, and make sure you stay within range to prevent diabetes, or if you already have it, to try to get rid of it if it's possible.
Well, now number 8, and this is the last one in this section, and this may be a pretty obvious one, but get enough sleep. Now that's something I've always struggled with. I'm not a great sleeper. I try, but things come up. So, but maintaining a healthy sleep pattern, and so for adults, on average, 7 hours is fine. For more elderly people, they're going to need more. For children and teens, they're going to need more. But no one should ever go below 6 hours, not on a regular basis, no.
Yeah, and I think the key word that you used was pattern. Have a time that you go to sleep and a time that you wake up, and make sure, you're in that 7 to 9 range, depending on your age and that type of thing. So it's very, very important to sleep. And there are all kinds of mechanisms that you can use to determine whether or not, what kind of sleep you had, deep sleep or REM sleep, and that type of thing. So make sure you get sleep, and you stay in your sleep mode for 7 to 9 hours. That's very, very important.
Very important. And so those are the essential 8. And he says, the closer to all 8 that you can do, the closer you are to avoiding cardiovascular disease. That to me was a big wake-up call. Now these things are simple, but they're not all easy. But if we kind of maintain a focus on, I already don't smoke, so that's not a problem for me. But it's maybe focusing on one thing each month, making sure that I'm really doing this. And so I think these are such important and, like I said, simple but not easy things to do.
Yeah, and I think that many of us, probably myself included, think, this has always been in my family. We've always had diabetes. We've always had hypertension. We've always had heart failure or whatever. So that's just going to be part of my genetic code. But Dr. Yancy made it very clear that the zip code is more important than the genetic code. So you can do something about this. You don't have to follow, the family pattern of having these illnesses and these issues and that type of thing. You can do something about that, and now is the time to get started.
And remember what he said. Now, we all know our phone numbers. What other numbers should we also know?
Right.
He said we should know right off the top of our head what our blood pressure number is, on average. Mm-hmm. We should know our cholesterol level numbers. We should know our blood sugars. Mm-hmm. So those are numbers that we should always have in the back of our mind that we know.
Just like our telephone number.
Yep. I love that.
Okay, that's good. That's very, very good.
Well, there was one other thing he mentioned too, and I thought about when he's saying about maintaining a good weight and eating a heart healthy diet, because he said focus on saying yes to yourself, yes to fruits and vegetables, yes to healthy fats, yes to protein, good level of protein. But he also mentioned 2 words, and he made us lean in to listen to get this secret. 2 words that will help you to maintain a healthy weight: portion control. And he said, so pretty much you can eat almost anything, but eat less. Take whatever's on your plate and only eat 80% of it. And cut off that 20%. And I actually tried this. And you know what? I didn't get hungry. I didn't miss that 20%. So that's 20% of calories I'm saving right there. And then not, I was still very satisfied with what I'd eaten. So 80%. Portion control, that to me is, I don't have to cut out food groups that I really enjoy, but just to eat less of it.
Yeah, and I like the way he said, from the positive standpoint, say yes to this. Don't say, oh no, I can't have this. Oh no, I can't have that. Because that not only does it stress you out, it gives you kind of like a negative reaction to things. Say, oh yes, I can have fruit. Oh yes, I can have this. I can have that. So if you go with the yes and not the no, you'll find yourself going toward these things that will make you stay healthy.
Yeah, and not feeling deprived, because I'm not into depriving myself. I don't do deprivation, but I do yes to healthy, eating healthier, eating the right kind of foods for me. So anyway, there were 2 other things off of this list that he said that just take it to another level. And Mel, do you want to actually bring those up? Okay, you want me to? All
Yeah.
right. Okay. Well, have you ever heard of blue zones? Okay. I don't know if you said yes or no, but a blue zone there are 5 areas in the world where people regularly live to their 90s or their hundreds, and they live healthy during those times. And so, yeah, and they live healthy during those times. So they live to be in their 90s or hundreds, and they live healthily and happily. So there are these 5 zones, but the important thing is, what is it about those zones in which people are living healthier and living longer? And he said, number one, I hate to bring this up, but I'm going to hammer this in. He said it's basically portion control, calorie restriction. They eat only to 80% of satisfaction. Okay, and they are physically active too. Okay, so very, 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 very important. Now, this is the thing that takes it to the higher level. They also have, number one, social networks. They're engaged with their communities and with their families. They may even, live multi-generationally, but they're very engaged with other people on a regular basis. And the second one is that they feel a real sense of purpose in life. They understand their purpose. They feel valued. And just imagine. That's when I heard that just blew me away. Because I think, well, yeah, everyone wants to feel that. They want to feel connected with people, with their community and other people, and they want to feel valued and know their purpose in life, what they're here for. So to me, that just blew everything away and took it to a different level. What about you, Mel?
Me too. And I don't think you have to live in a blue zone to live longer if you do some of these other things. And like connecting with your community. Maybe you are in a situation where, I don't really know what I can do. There are always volunteer opportunities. Find out what you like to do. Do you like to talk to people? Do you like to interact in a certain way, or walk with people, or have a walking group? But somehow interact with other people, and you can do these things just regularly. And there are just so many places that need volunteers. You can go in there, and next thing you know, you are at a different level. So
Yeah.
no, I agree. That did take it to a different level.
Yeah, so I just really appreciate it. I appreciate, Dr. Yancey's, just really being open and real with us, about these things. He got into the medicine and the physical health and all of that, but then there are things you just can't even measure. And that's how one feels in their community, and how one is connected with their community. And I did read this article, a very interesting article about, some of the places where Black people regularly live the longest. And this article just came out this year, and I'm going to post it onto the website because it's really important. But they mentioned, and they said this is almost like a modern day Wakanda, this area. So it said it's the Washington, D.C. area in the Maryland, Virginia corridor, right just outside of Washington, D.C. So Fairfax County, Prince William County, Montgomery counties in Virginia. And then there's a part of Maryland just outside of Washington, D.C. And they said Black people are living longer, they're connected, they're thriving in these communities. I should say we are, although I don't live in those areas. But I'm searching for one in Europe here now. But yeah, they described it as a modern day Wakanda. And what we call those, maybe not blue zones, but this is where Black people are living the longest and living healthier. And to me, that was another thing that just blew me away. And so, what about you, Mel?
It definitely blew me away, because I think that it's really important to connect with your community. And I think there are a lot of Black people in these areas that you mentioned, so I think there's a connection there, in the community, and opportunities, to do things with, people of, your community, and for your community. So it definitely blew me away. So it's just kind of like icing on the cake. Here's the cake. Let's put some icing on it.
So now we got a real cake.
Yeah, right. This is a cake you can actually eat.
Right. So anyway, I thought it was, I really appreciated Dr. Yancey appearing, and I really appreciate your presence here too, Mel, because first of all, we're community.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
and it just really helps to talk about these issues and to hold each other accountable, and to remind each other about this and that aspect, and that the support is there. It's not about criticism or pushing people. It's just about support and community.
Yeah, and I love Real Talk because Real Talk is real people. I mean,
Yes,
we're
yes.
not experts in any of these areas, but we're just real people like you, and we want you to understand how we see this.
Yeah, right. And actually, since we are community, I want to know how you see this too. So of course, send your messages to team@espressotalktoday.com, or find us on Instagram too. At Espresso Talk. Well, actually, I've changed it now to it's my name, Robin Lofton, on Instagram. So I look forward to seeing you there. And thank you again, Mel Asante Sana, for being here as always.
Thank you for inviting me and having me.
Okay, well, thanks, community. And if you have any questions, actually, Dr. Yancy said, he'll be happy to answer questions. Send them to me, and I will pass them along, I promise. And thank you so much, community, for being with us today. And?
What can I say? This has blown me away. So thank you for being here. And as always, we will do the Real Talk for you.
Okay, bye for now.